Chapter 5 lecture discussion will be about planning. If you will recall, in Chapter 1, we identified that the management process has 4 functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. This chapter will focus on the first function, planning. Specifically, we will describe the planning function and link it to strategy and strategic management and why they are important. In the planning function, we need to consider our mission, vision, and identify our company's value statements. Once we have done that, we will explain the 3 types of planning that companies face, as well as why it is important to identify goals and their purpose within the organization. As we said, planning is the first of the four functions in the management process, and it involves setting goals and deciding how to achieve them. In addition to coping with uncertainty by formulating future courses of action to achieve specified results. Along with this, planning involves ensuring that the plans are linked to the business strategy. So how do we organize these plans? One way is through a plan, which is a document that outlines how goals are going to be met. And there is one important document that every business should make. It is the business plan. It is a document that outlines a proposed firm's goals, the strategy for achieving those goals, and the standards for measuring success. Within this document, you are basically describing the idea of your business or your business model. It outlines what the needs of the firm will be and how the firm will fulfill them. What are the operations of the business, how it will operate, the components and functions, as well as the expected revenues and expenses. Management 1210 Small Business Entrepreneurship dives deeper into creating a business plan and more in depth in identifying your business model. It's important as a company to plan our business and how to reach the goals that we have. In order to do so, we need to have a strategy. How are we going to accomplish X, for example? It is through this careful strategic planning and management that we do this. Strategic management is a process that involves managers from all parts of the organization in the formulation and implementation of strategies and strategic goals. From top management to middle managers to line managers, aligning all levels of management within the organization. What we decide on how to do something derives from an organization's mission and vision statement, making sure that what we are doing lines up to the vision and values we have as an organization. So a strategy, or more accurately, a strategic plan, helps set longer-term goals in an organization and usually looks at the organization as a whole. A strategy or strategic plan is a large-scale action plan that sets the long-term goals and direction for the organization. It represents an educated guess about what must be done in the long term for the survival or the prosperity of the organization or its principal parts. And these plans generally are reconsidered every year due to the ever-changing business conditions. So why are planning and strategic management important? Simply for 3 reasons. They provide direction and momentum. Why do businesses need direction and momentum? Well, obviously, one of the main reasons is so that competitors are less likely to sneak up on them. So unless a plan is in place, managers may well focus on just whatever is in front of them or just putting out fires. Instead, managers might be preoccupied with day-to-day pressures of their organizations, and they could lose momentum. So it is important that they have a plan and be prepared. So presented are 4 examples of give an idea to you students about what can happen when a business takes customers for granted. Because if they do risk losing market share. Consider what Amazon.com was to Border bookstores. Border bookstores is not around anymore. What Uber is to taxi cabs. What blogs on the internet is for in newspapers. And what microbreweries are to Anheuser-Busch. So it's important that we plan and see what our competitors are doing and what is happening in order to avoid being Borders, avoid being Anheuser-Busch and these taxi cabs. Strategic planning also encourages new ideas. One example of a company that has been successful is Apple. They have a great strategic innovation, which is defined as the ability to reinvent the basis of competition within existing industries, the bold new business models that put incumbents on the defense. So there are many companies who have to be innovative in today's competitive market. Think of the delivery service companies. Who started it first? Grubhub? If other companies sat by and didn't become innovative, they would lose market share. Instead, we now have DoorDash, Shipt, and other companies who needed to be part of this market share in order to stay competitive and survive. This ties into our third reason. Develop a sustainable competitive advantage, which is the ability of an organization to produce goods or service more effectively than its competitors do, thereby outperforming them. A sustainable competitive advantage occurs when an organization is able to get and stay ahead in 4 areas. Those 4 areas being in being responsive to customers, in innovation, in quality, and effectiveness. Our textbook uses Mattel and the new Barbies as an example of how the company has a sustainable advantage. From our first one, responsive to customers, parents are interested in the grassroots, and parents and interested grassroots organizations have campaigned to make toys less stereotypical. In innovating, Mattel created dolls that are curvy, petite, tall, etc. So there are steps to planning, planning and strategic management, and these are the steps that we will thoroughly be discussed in chapters 5 and 6. So we have number 1, establish the mission, value, and vision, assess the current reality, formulate the grand strategic, tactical, and operational plan, implement strategy, and maintain strategic control. So the planning process begins with 3 attributes. A mission statement, which answers the question, what is our reason for being? Basically expressing the purpose of the organization. It identifies a vision statement, which answers the question, what do we want to become? And it should be a clear sense of the future and the actions needed to get there. And the value statement, which answers the question, what values do we want to emphasize, or what the company stands for, its core principles, the values of its employees embody, and what its products contribute to the world. An example from the textbook is Coca-Cola's mission statement, but what I have here is Macomb Community College's vision and mission statement. They both work together to provide a cohesive message to customers and employees alike. The mission statement is, as a publicly funded and community-based institution of higher education, Macomb Community College provides a comprehensive program of highly quality educational enrichment and economic development experiences designed to promote student success, individual growth, and social advancement. Our vision statement is Macomb Community College will continue to be a recognized leader of higher education and the community's preferred choice for lifelong learning, cultural enrichment, and community development opportunities. The approach to planning can be summarized in this diagram, which shows how an organization's mission becomes translated into action plan. There are 3 main parts. So we have our mission, what is our reason for being, our vision, what do we want to become, and what values do we want to emphasize. So the 3 main plans, strategic planning is typically done by top managers, and it takes, what is happening in the next 5 to 10 years. So we need to be strategic plan for the next 5 to 10 years. What are our goals, and how do we reach those goals? Tactical planning is done by middle managers, and they look at what's going to happen in the next 6 to 24 months. And then operational planning is done by first line managers and what is going to happen in the next 1 to 52 weeks. So the purpose of each kind of planning is to specify goals and actions that will ultimately pave the way toward achieving an organization's vision. Inspired by the organization's mission and vision statements, they provided focal point of the entire planning process. So there are 3 types of planning for 3 levels of management: strategic planning, which are determined, like we said, for the 1 to 5 years; tactical, done by middle management; They determine what their departments or other work units need to do with their given resources in the next 6 to 24 months. And then we have operational planning, which is implemented, like I said, by first line managers, and they determine how to accomplish specific tasks with available resources within the next 1 to 52 weeks. The key information here is to show how different levels of management use plans and the time frames of those plans. So in summary, top management, your CEO, your vice president, is engaged in strategic planning. Your middle management, your department managers, your functional managers are engaged in tactical planning, and then your frontline managers, your supervisors, your team leaders, your unit managers are engaged in operational planning. So let's take a look at question number 1. Danny is participating with other managers in a discussion about what his organization's goals should be for the next decade. He is participating in, think about this one. If you said A, strategic planning, you are right. Strategic planning, remember, sets long-term goals. What is the direction of the company? In this instance, our long-term goal is 10 years. That's indicated in the question. So remember, the purpose of planning is to set a goal and then an action plan. There are 2 types of goals that we already mentioned, but now we're going to discuss them deeper. The first, a goal is also known as an objective or a specific commitment to achieve a measurable result within a stated period of time, and it can either be short-term or long-term. Short-term goals, sometimes referred to as tactical or operational goals or just plain goals, generally span 12 months and are connected to strategic goals in the hierarchy, known as a means-end chain. Long-term goals generally are referred to as strategic goals, and they tend to span 1 to 5 years, and they focus on achieving the strategies identified in the company's strategic plan. We will learn later in lecture that goals should be SMART, in that they should be specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and with target dates. Whether it be a long-term or a short-term goal, it should be broken down into smaller pieces, such as an operating plan and then an action plan, so that there is alignment between the strategy that was created at the top, with the actions of the middle and frontline managers to help carry out that strategic plan. So an operational plan is a plan that breaks long-term output into short-term target goals. It turns these strategic plans into actionable short-term goals and action plans, which define the course of action or the tactics needed to achieve that stated goal. An action plan contains a projected date for completing the desired activities for each tactic. So you have this big strategic plan, and now so you're breaking it up into small chunks with target dates and completing those tactics to reach the end result of the ultimate goal that was set at the top. So there are 2 types of plans: standing and single use. Standing plans for activities that occur over a period of time, whereas single-use plan is for activities and not likely to be repeated in the future. So the 5 characteristics of a good goal are represented by the acronym SMART. SMART, S, specifics, is stating that goals should be stated in specific rather than vague terms. So the goal that for example, as many planes as possible should arrive on time is too general. In order for it to be specific, we need a number. So that goal instead should be written as 90% of planes should arrive within 15 minutes of the scheduled arrival time is much more specific. A good goal should also be measurable. So whenever possible, goals should be measurable or be quantifiable. In our example, 90% in 15 minutes is that measurement. So there should be some way to measure the degree to which a goal has been reached. They should be attainable. Goals should be challenging, of course, but above all, they should be realistic and attainable. It may be best to set goals that are quite ambitious so as to challenge people to meet high standards. Always, however, the goals should be achievable within the scope of time, the equipment, the financial support, the resources that are available to you. Good goals should also be results oriented and or relevant. Only a few goals should be chosen, say 5 for any work unit, and they should be results oriented. They should support the organization's vision. Finally, smart goals or good goals should have target dates. Goals should specify the target date or deadline, when they should be attained. For example, it's unrealistic to expect an airline to improve its arrival times by 10% overnight. However, you can set a target date that in 3 to 6 months, you will be able to achieve that goal. If goals are too easy, as in half the flights should arrive on time, goals won't impel people to make much effort. So if possible, for example, all flights might arrive on time regardless of weather, employees won't even bother trying, or they will try and continually fail, which will end up hurting morale. Or they'll end up cheating. An example was the unrealistic goal of cutting wait lines for appointments by more than half at Veterans Hospital, as revealed, ongoing scandal that the VA had recently. So they falsified these figures, that it was an unrealistic goal that they couldn't meet, and caused a lot of drama for them. And that they said they were going to do X, and they didn't. Ended up doing something totally different. So first suggested by Peter Drucker in 1954, management by objectives has spread largely because of the appeal of its emphasis on converting general objectives into specific ones for all members of the organization. So the purpose of MBO, or management by objectives, is to motivate rather than to control subordinates. So managers and employees jointly set objectives for the employee. So managers tend to set 3 types of objectives for these employees. There are performance objectives, where the focus is to express the objective as an outcome or an end result. For example, increase credit card applications by 10%. Objectives can be behavioral, where the focus is to express the behavior needed to achieve that outcome. For example, smile, better customer service, learning the basic of a software. And the last objective is a learning objective, acquiring the knowledge or competency needed to achieve the outcome. For example, attend professional development or training classes. Once the objectives are set, managers develop this action plan to help their employees reach them. And then next, managers and employees periodically review the employee's performance. And then finally, managers make a performance appraisal and reward the employee according to the results. So for goals to be successful, the following also needs to happen. There should be commitment by both top and middle management. So when top management is committed, there's high commitment. The average gain in productivity was found to be 56%. But when it's low, the average gain in productivity is only 6%. So top and middle management needs to be involved. There should also be organization-wide goals. The goal-setting program has to be put in place throughout the entire organization. That is, it cannot be applied in just some divisions and departments. It has to be done to all of them. Finally, cascading goals. Top managers set strategic goals which are translated into divisional goals which are translated into departmental goals, which are translated into individual goals. So the cascading process ends when all individuals have set goals and support the overall strategic goals. This process helps employees understand how their work contributes to the overall corporate success. So here we have question number 2. Melissa wants her employer Raul to turn in his monthly sales report by the 5th of every month. This meets the blank requirement of SMART goals. So if you answered D, target dates, you are right. A SMART goal is one that is specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and has target date. In this instance, the 5th of every month is our target date. The four-step planning controlling cycle helps you keep in control to make sure that you are headed in the right direction and are able to meet the goals' deadlines. So planning happens in two steps. You make the plan and you carry out the plan. Next, control happens in the following two steps. You control the direction by comparing the results with the plan, and then you control the direction in two ways. You correct any deviations or you improve future plans. So, remember that planning in the controlling cycle loop exists for every level of planning. Whether it's strategic planning, tactical planning, or operational planning. The corrective action in step 4 here that we have of the cycle can get a project back on track before it's too late. But if it's too late, it can provide data for improving future plans. So always, take a look at what's going on. Once that plan has been carried out, control. What happened? Did it work? Did it deviate? What can we do in the future to make things better? What can we do to make things, what changes do we have to make? So question 3, when outside the production of batteries was slower than desired, Tesla made the decision to bring back this in-house. This is an example of, if you answered C, take corrective action, that is correct. So Tesla took steps to correct a deviation in the plan that affected the production. So this is the fourth step in the planning control cycle that we just saw here. So this concludes Chapter 5 for your management course.